Good evening, folks. On the 9th of August, 2026, some South Africans looking for resolution to their ineligibility letters were sent a ray of hope from the Deputy Secretary of State, Chris Landau. Now, before people get too excited about this, let's put this in perspective and also want to discuss where this came from. This came from a small Twitter account with less than 1,500 followers, but that doesn't mean anything. Small accounts can be impactful and they can grow quite quickly, particularly after saying this. This account includes a message from someone known as All of You, who makes a very long Twitter post in which this person says, okay, we're not going to get upset, we're going to get organized. But in some ways, some people might interpret it as a bit menacing, threatening that they're going to harass government officials over something that these officials have no control over. And let's talk about Christopher Landau. He, of course, was the Dep Secretary who greeted the 59ers at the airport in D.C. on the 12th of May, 2025. The Department of Homeland Security is the organization responsible for adjudicating refugees, not the Department of State. He was sworn in as the 23rd Deputy Secretary of State on the 25th of March last year. But he is not the authority. That doesn't mean he can't talk to Homeland Security, doesn't mean he wields no influence there, but he has no authority over Homeland Security. And the role of adjudication is governed by law, not by political appointees or by policy. So his decision to look into it may yield something, but before people start counting their chickens, let's make sure those eggs hatch. The Department of Homeland Security adjudicates refugee status in the United States. Specifically, it's handled by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, an agency operating under DHS via specialized officers who conduct interviews and determine eligibility. So if there's something untoward going on here, it's going to take some time for Christopher Landau to get a handle on it. Number one, because he doesn't control these people. They don't work for him. They're in a separate branch of the government. And some people don't seem to understand this. And they're getting their hopes up. I'm not trying to throw water or wet blanket on your hopes, but I'm just trying to put this perspective because people are putting things into the wrong context here. Perhaps something will come of, perhaps something won't. So I looked over this account, the All of You, and I noticed some AI graphics here. The Incredible Ineligibles Coalition, Americans and Afrikaners advocating for fair process, transparency, and answers. Also, this person says they've reached out to the whole community. I've never heard of this person, and they've not contacted me. No one has spoken to more refugees than me. I'm curious why this person has never reached out to me if they're trying to help with this problem. No one has better insight, more access, and more in-depth analysis than I have, or practical on-the-ground experience. So I don't know why I've never heard from this person. If I've heard from them, perhaps I have under a guise of a different name. But they post an image saying the incredible ineligibles. What is incredible about being ineligible? I've listened to the stories of many ineligible South Africans in the States and here in the States via distance, but here in person. I doubt that this All of You has spoken to these people in person and heard their stories. In virtually every case, I know exactly why these people are ineligible. And transparency is not going to change anything. Also, refugee applicants or aspirants are not entitled to transparency and answers. They're not entitled to them, and there are very good legal reasons why they don't get them. And demanding such a thing is not only inappropriate, it is arrogant and cheeky to say the least. These people act as if non-citizens have the same rights as American citizens. They do not. They do not. And they shouldn't have the same rights as American citizens. Now, this may seem a little odd and contradictory because of my empathy for those who got ineligibility letters. But my issue there is how long people are made to wait. These determinations can certainly be made much quicker in many of these cases. Many of these cases that I've heard about, it's quite obvious that they were ineligible much sooner than they got ineligibility letters. But demanding fair process, they got a fair process. They got a hearing. They didn't pay for it. Their case was adjudicated and they were determined ineligible. Demanding transparency, the government has no obligation to be transparent in these matters. Sensitive information is involved. Sources and methods are involved. People who've been interviewed were involved. And you can't be transparent about that. It shows wholesale ignorance of how the government works and how privacy works. They want answers. Well, you have answers, you just refuse to accept them. That's unfortunate. As I said, there are people working to try to get the government to take a look at this, but making demands isn't going to work. Now, apparently, people are going to be rewarded because they've gotten the attention of Deputy Secretary Christopher Landau. But again, he's not the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. He's the Deputy Secretary of the State Department, a very different agency with influence, but no authority over Homeland Security. So in the post that all of you posted on Twitter, we're asking for a fair process. I got a fair process. We want to understand why some families are being deemed ineligible. Why don't you want to know why all families are being deemed ineligible? Frankly, it's none of your business. It's business of the U.S. government and the family. And the family has no right to that information, sadly. We want to document cases where people say they were given little to no explanation. Well, no one was given any explanation, so there's nothing to document. No one received a letter explaining why. We want to examine a case where government records appear to show that decisions were made months before families are actually notified. Well, as I've said, I don't know who this person is. And once again, I understand why they're not contacting me. I mean, this is actually somewhat comical to me. I've explained why. They need a legal review. And now people are getting the ineligibility letters much faster. We want answers. I've given you answers. We're going to collect receipts. What receipts is there to collect? There are none. We're going to organize the data. In what fashion? What data? And we're going to document the stories. What stories? Are you going to talk to families? Are they going to be honest with you about how they were involved in drug trafficking, how they used fraudulent documents, how they failed to articulate their case? Are they going to be honest with you about that? Some have been honest with me, but they haven't gone public with that. We're going to research people in the United States government who actually have authority over this program. That's a threat. That's a threat. You're going to dig into the lives of U.S. government employees and you're going to dox them? How are you going to do this? And for Christopher Landau, I'm a bit surprised at his response. A State Department official saying that he would look into this. It's got his attention. Thank you for bringing your concerns to my attention. I'll look in the situation. And all of you says, thank you, sir. You have no idea how much it means to simply know that these families have been heard. I'm incredibly grateful that you're willing to look into this. God bless you. Well, I would not have taken the same approach as Christopher Landau. That's very magnanimous of him. The threatening language that's in that post was wholly unwarranted, unnecessary. The information is there. People simply refuse to accept it. Again, refugee aspirants are not American citizens. They're not entitled to this information. They're not entitled to the things that they're demanding here. The only legitimate concern here, frankly, is how long it took for these ineligibility letters to come out. It's rather heartless. But again, it's a consequence of needing legal review. They didn't just hold them for the sake of holding them to a magical date. They didn't hold them to torture South Africans. If they did, then they would hold the next letters, but they're issuing the letters as cases are deemed ineligible. And I don't want South Africans to get their hopes up. It's promising that Landau will look into this, but again, these people don't work for him. He has no legal authority over them whatsoever. Does he have influence? Probably. Will he lead to a change? Probably not. Will lead to some more transparency? Probably not. But at least somebody's looking into it in the U.S. government with authority, a political appointee. And he's a lawyer, so maybe he can find a loophole. What say you, South Africa? Are your hopes raised, or are you still moving along the same way you were before? From the mother city of Cape Town, this is Chris. God bless and good night.